Welcome to this analysis. We're diving into something really special today. We are going to completely dismantle a very comfortable lie, the myth of the solitary genius. Instead, we're going to uncover the invisible 30-year blueprint behind what is, frankly, the most beautiful and ruthless machine in sports history. If you've ever wondered how true inevitable greatness is actually built from the ground up, well, you're in exactly the right place. Whenever we see a team or an organization achieve absolute dominance, what's our first instinct? We point straight to the superstar. We say, oh, a once-in-a-century genius dropped from the sky like a meteorite, and everyone else just got lucky to be standing nearby, right? But as the quote says, it's a beautiful story. It explains absolutely nothing about how sustained, repeatable excellence is actually engineered. There is a huge contrast between what we want to believe and the cold, hard reality. Think about it. If raw talent alone were enough, we'd see greatness everywhere. Every rich team that just buys star players would be a dynasty. But true inevitability? It isn't magic. It's a complex machine, painstakingly engineered over decades, completely devoid of glamour. It's all about building the underlying structure so that when the talent does arrive, it multiplies. Section 1. La idea heredada. 30 years of invisible architecture. To really understand this machine, we gotta go way back. You don't always have to invent a brilliant new philosophy from scratch. Actually, the real secret is often inheriting a powerful, unyielding idea and obsessively refining it. Look at this timeline. In 1973, an uncompromising player, the Dutchman Johan Cruyff, planted a heretical idea. Controlling space through possession is a moral imperative. Boom. By 1992, that idea was validated at the highest level with the Dream Team. Then, things got shaky. The institution almost forgot its own identity during Los Años Perdidos, or the lost years, between 96 and 2008. But finally, in 2008, a figure we'll call the architect arrived to perfect the assembly. I absolutely love this next point. Originality is overrated. Custodianship is underrated. This is something every leader or builder needs to internalize. The greatest builders don't obsess over being totally original. No. They obsess over protecting and refining a powerful idea across multiple generations. The magic here wasn't inventing a new way to play out of thin air. The magic was keeping the idea alive long enough for it to become the undeniable DNA of the entire institution. Moving on to Section 2. Cultivar antes de comprar. Building the player before the team. Okay, so an idea is just a ghost until you give it a physical body, right? And that brings us to El Rondo. If you've ever played soccer, you know the drill. Players in a circle, passing the ball, keeping it away from the poor guy in the middle. But in this legendary farmhouse academy, it wasn't just some casual warm-up. No way. It was a cultural catechism. It drilled space, angles, and collective responsibility into the minds of kids until technical intelligence wasn't just a skill. It literally became pure, unbreakable instinct. This academy operated on an entirely inverted value system. While the rest of the world was out there scouting for speed, size, and muscle, this institution, they prized intelligence and technique. They treated the ball like absolute treasure. And because of these highly specific values, they could recognize and protect small, brilliant players, including, famously, a medically fragile young boy who would have been discarded by almost any other club on the planet. That boy, of course, would later become the ultimate magician. But here is a critical question for us. How does an institution actually survive a period like those lost years we mentioned? What happens when the leadership loses its nerve, panics under all that pressure, and starts chasing conventional, quick-fix results? How does the core philosophy manage to survive at all? Well, the answer lies in the exact difference between a talent factory and a cultural ecosystem. A talent factory? It just upgrades individual skills. It's generic. But a cultural ecosystem actually transmits a shared worldview. The philosophy only survived those dark years because it was safely embedded in that deep ecosystem within the academy. It goes to show that true resilience means building your philosophy so deep into the bones of your organization that it can be instantly recovered even after a massive crisis. Which brings us to Section 3, Ensamblando la máquina, the architect's arrival. So the climax hits in 2008 with the arrival of the architect. He was a scholar of the system, a guy who had literally lived the philosophy. And his very first move? Totally shocking. He ruthlessly discarded some of the most world-famous, exceptionally talented stars on the team. Why on earth would he do that? Because their egos and her lack of work ethic directly threatened the integrity of the machine. He proved that clarity requires subtraction. Basically, what you refuse to include in your system is exactly what defines your culture. And the results of that ruthless clarity? Absolutely staggering. We're talking 14 trophies in just 4 seasons, including an unprecedented 6 in a single calendar year. I mean, it was sheer mathematical dominance. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the massive gamble of prioritizing system coherence over raw star power worked flawlessly. Section 4. El sistema operativo. Decoding the blueprint. So how did this actually work out there on the pitch? It all came down to 3 unyielding pillars of their code. First up, possession is defense. You literally starve the opponent of the ball so they can't hurt you. Simple but devastating. Second, structured occupation of space, creating endless passing triangles to mathematically guarantee an open man at all times. And third, immediate pressure, violently pressing to win the ball back within seconds of losing it. It created this suffocating, incredibly beautiful loop. Now, this shared logic is exactly why the team looked like they were reading each other's minds out there. Tactical instructions are rigid, right? They break the second reality shifts on the field. But shared principles, those are adaptive. These players weren't out there memorizing specific plays like robots. They were running the exact same shared operating system. They could instantly solve really complex problems on the pitch together because they possessed the same fundamental logic. Moving right along to Section 5, El motor invisible, the midfield triangle. Listen, to run an operating system this demanding, you need an incredible engine room. And that engine was a specific midfield trio, completely cultivated from childhood, right there in the academy. You had El Pivote, providing the quiet, organizing platform. You had El Metronomo, dictating the relentless rhythm and circulation of the ball. And you had El Bailarín, the dancer, the penetrator who broke the lines. They complemented each other perfectly. There was literally never a single wasted movement because every action was actively supported by the other two. And here is where the crucial difference lies. Individual quality is incredibly expensive, and yeah, you can just go buy it on the open market, but compatibility, that is totally invisible. It takes decades to cultivate. Their true superpower was this deep, intrinsic compatibility that completely eliminated the friction of coordination. That's an asset the open market simply cannot price, and you absolutely cannot buy it overnight. No way. Section 6, El sistema sobre la estrella, liberating the genius. Finally, we arrive at the star. This entire systemic architecture, the decades of philosophy, the academy, the architect, the operating system, all of it served the ultimate protagonist of this era, the tiny magician himself. And it presents the ultimate irony of greatness. By plugging this solitary genius into a flawless, perfectly humming machine, instead of asking him to put a dysfunctional team on his back and carry them, the system took care of the heavy lifting. It completely freed him from the burden of running the whole show, allowing him to focus purely on doing the impossible, and ultimately, achieving immortality. I want to leave you all with this provocative thought. Genius is the part you see on the highlights. We all see it. But are you building the invisible system? Stop waiting for a meteorite of luck or some sudden genius to just fall into your lap. It's time to start doing the unglamorous, decades-long work of building your own invisible cathedral. Because when the system is perfect, greatness becomes inevitable. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive, and I'll catch you next time.